Good evening, everyone. We have a very interesting panel today, and we have a very interesting set of panelists here. Um, from various domains in fintech to, uh, you know, areas which have really evolved a lot and areas which are really, figuring out their ways on data and AI. The topic for panel discussion today is on how data and AI is changing enterprise marketing strategies. And what we are going to delve today is with the panelists in terms of what changes they are seeing in their organization driven through data, AI being a very recent phenomena. So what experiments are really happening on those fronts, and in which direction will data and AI really potentially take a marketing strategy of tomorrow? So I'll start with you, Vishesh. Uh, in terms of your current set, how are you using data to drive your marketing strategies? And in terms of, are there practical AI use cases you've been able to identify?
Good evening, everyone. Uh, Thank you so much to the organizers for having all of us here. Fantastic evening so far, and I'm sure and I hope that you are having a good, insightful evening as well. Uh, Good evening to the panelists also. Coming to your point of how we at Bajaj Financial Securities are utilizing data. See, in our industry, how it has evolved from the time wherein there used to be so-called market gurus who used to say and tell people that this is what you should do and how you should do, to the point where the DIY has come into picture. Data has started playing a massive role, especially so now that we have a lot of traction from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. Now, if you're catering to India, as we all know, is a diverse demography. Okay, so language changes, how people perceive content, how people behave on different communication, gender-wise, sociography-wise. So what we have started doing, we have started working on a lot of data to personalize, not just product, but the proposition also. Say, for example, right now, I know that a lot of Gen Z are entering first-time millennials. So I can't directly start talking to them by sending a communication which says, start trading in stock market right away. So I need to look at what kind of consumption pattern they have. I need to create those CDPs to make sure my communication is more effective. That's point number one. Point number two, since we are a heavily regulated industry, consent plays a very important role. And in such a scenario, you need to make sure that what kind of platforms they have agreed to be contacted, their user behavior, how they are, whether they are looking at mutual funds, whether they are looking at stocks, again, in stocks, whether they are looking at long-term investment, whether they are looking at FNO. So all those data sets become very important for me. From a cookie-based approach to now where we have CDPs, we have covered a long road. And right now, as we speak, we are making sure that we have entire communication in multi-format approach, multi-platform approach, and multilingual approach. So yeah, that's some of the key things we are looking at from data viewpoint and making sure that, our communication is effective and efficient. Yeah, thank you.
Manish, if I have to come to you, and you have extensive experience on various facets of marketing, and you've really seen it evolve. Uh, at Godrej, do you see, what kind of experiments are you doing on the AI side? Use of data, and you have so many products, and you have so many segments, and you have so many different potential use cases.
Yeah, so hi people, and Welcome to all the panel members. So first and foremost, I want to ask the audience, when do you think AI was first put to use? Can anyone guess? It was in 1933. It was to translate various languages into something which could be understood. The first chatbot was invented way back in the year 1966. Okay? And that is how old AI actually is. So it is not a recent phenomena. It's pretty old. So if you actually see, the use of AI to a large extent has been used in several years back. AI, as you all know, there are two types of AI. There is predictive and there is generative, right? So predictive is something that we all use. I mean, everyone sitting out here would be using a predictive AI to a very large extent in their marketing campaigns and programmatic in terms of targeting consumers. We at Godrej and Boyce do that as well to a very large extent with our creative partners and our media agencies. The amount of people that used to be employed by the creative people as well as our marketing people now have significantly reduced. So even in AI, there is a very, very clear phenomena that, AI is essentially machine, right? And to a large extent, it depends on the data that is provided by the humans. Okay, so please let go of people who, to a large extent, are going to be doing the job of AI. Do not let go of people who, to a large extent, bring innovation to the table. That is what I really largely believe, because AI standalone is not going to be able to answer all the questions. Okay, to a very large extent, I think creativity, innovation is not something that is developed by AI. Everyone would have seen Polar Express. That was generative AI, where Tom Hanks was an AI character. But there was an uncanny valley. There is a term called as the uncanny valley in AI. And that, to a large extent, is the place, where you are not getting it 100% right, where there is still that 1% which makes you feel spooky. And there are lots of cases where you feel spooky, right, with the use of AI. So calls that you don't want to attend to. Recorded calls is something that, I absolutely detest. In fact, the first thing that I do when I see a recorded call is I block it. Unnecessary calls from banks is something that I detest. The first thing that I would do is not go and bank with those banks. SMSs is something that I detest because, there are SMSs which I know are sent by marketeers. So that is something which is also very different. So the way in which you use AI is going to be very important. AI can be used in programmatic advertising to a large extent in terms of segmenting the consumer with respect to his demographics, with respect to his behavioral patterns, with respect to his preferences, and things like that. But just imagine an onset of COVID. Okay, the first thing that AI is going to do is tell you that your marketing campaign is not working, right? Because it does not know that there is COVID. But the reality is that there is something which is unnatural which has happened, as a result of which your certain campaign is not working. AI is going to tell you to stop that particular campaign, even in spite of the fact that that campaign might be absolutely brilliant. That's where human intervention comes in. And I really do believe that human intervention to a large extent is extremely critical whenever it comes to AI. Generative AI, there are a lot of people right now, even in Godrej and Boyce right now, we are using generative AI in terms of creating content. Okay, there is image recognition, there is NLP, natural language processing, and a lot of other stuff. But to a large extent, there is AI which is used in the music industry as well, to a very large extent, if you would know. But what is that AI? That's essentially a copy which is inspired by several musicians, which are making music, and it is not original. So it leads to plagiarism as well. And that is where human intervention comes in and innovation comes in. So I really am a believer in terms of AI, but the way it was used right since 1933 and it was used in 1966, where the first chatbot happened with a psychotherapist, I beg your pardon, where questions were put in and the psychotherapist could answer that. So it is not something which is a new phenomena, it's quite an old phenomena, but the way it has to be used, the way it has to be deployed completely depends upon the organization. Talking about Godrej and Boyce, we use that for new product development. Okay, because there are a lot of insights that come from consumers with respect to new product development as well. We use it in programmatic, we use it in both B2B as well as B2C. We've got divisions we've got businesses which are B2B as well as B2C. So it is used across them. We use in material handling, we use in terms of chatbot with respect to service, and a lot of other things. But tread with caution and ensure that you still have human intervention. Thank you.
I think to pick up on tread with caution, there's a lot of concern which is there around data and privacy. So, there's a lot of processes, and I'll come to you, Kanika, in terms of how are you, dealing with this important aspect on data and privacy, where a lot of this data is being collected and you're probably utilizing it for personalization, reaching out to different diaspora and different segmentation. Share some thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, so I think you have raised a very valid question, and that's where thankfully our government has also woken up, and recently they had this bill also. The important thing I think is specifically, I belong to BFSI, and here the data privacy is the most important aspect. When we think of anything, the first thing comes into mind is whether I'm compliant with the regulation or not, whether I'm not breaching any data of my customer or not. So that's a very important aspect, and yet I think the solution to it is still emerging to a large extent, because when we work with a lot of partners. So how do we really keep it confidential is something we constantly keep on evaluating, and this is something, it varies from the partner to partner, how we try to protect that data, but that's a key. And cloud is something which is definitely giving an answer to that security and privacy aspect. And coming back to your second question on personalization, see, the important thing which I think is still where many of the organizations are lacking, that the data is in silos within the organization. So the departmental wise, you would see that, I have a lot of data which marketing is using, which probably my analytics team is using to create the risk models. Similarly, if I talk about sales, they have their own set of Excels which they are using, and they are ignoring all the Power BI and dashboards. So essentially, that silos is something which people need to break. That data mart that we really talk about is something which has to come up. A lot of unstructured data, which now people have realized and are getting into the structured data. And thankfully, as we are moving towards structured data, I see that the generative AI is coming, which is capable of working on the unstructured data. So I think we are at a stage where the multiple things are, while we have yet not concluded on how we can make best use of AI, because when we say AI, I think most of it is still where people use algos and a standard set of rules which they call AI. I do not believe that's AI really. And then it's also about the unstructured data which the generative AI is already capable of, while we are yet progressing towards unstructured to structured. So,
fair. At Fino, how do you see, the data sets and potential use case of generative AI in terms of attribution? So that's one of the tricky parts. How do you think that it will help probably resolve that to some extent?
Okay, I think that's a very, very relevant question for every marketer. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, right? A marketer is a company's very important salesperson, for the want of a better word. Fine, there is the whole building of the brand, the affinity, the engagement, etc. But if it's not going to sell the product, it's really of no use to anybody. So the thing is, what mathematical models ultimately do is that they take a lot of the guesswork out of the equation. They take a lot of emotion out of decision making as to what has worked and what's not, which variable, and it just allows you to handle insane amount of data, right? Which earlier, let's say, okay, you had the compute capability even 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, but today the models are getting more and more sophisticated, and I guess even your way of working around them is improving. So which means that, overall, I guess even the skill set of analysts is kind of coming up. So then things like, mixed, that whole things of the market, the basket mix analysis, etc. Let's say the FMCG guys use. In BFSI also you start using the same elements or thoughts. It will definitely make it easier. Because what happens is, see, ultimately when you'll pump in, let's say, whatever, 200, 400, 500 data points about each and every consumer, somewhere certain correlations that make sense will emerge. There will be spurious correlations. So that's where the business understanding and everything of the organization, of the people involved comes in. But you will be able to somewhere figure things out. And very importantly, be able to leverage where the correlation comes in. So I think that definitely helps. And for us as a brand, that's very critical because, look, my consumer is not somebody who is having a Starbucks coffee in Ghatkopar or something like that. No. The guy is selling chai pakoda samosa somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Yavatmal. Now for that guy, the data availability is limited. And I guess that's where a lot of these models are helping stuff because the models allow you to integrate a lot of generic information, a lot of geographical information about the area, economic variables. So for example, we figured that availability of water supply seemed to have a very strong correlation with consumers renewing their bank account. Now, fantastic, the machine says so, but when you look, reason it out from a business sense, you realize, look, this is spurious correlation. So I think that way, this is where a lot of these newer models and machine-driven approaches are at least helping you figure out certain variables which you otherwise did not believe in, but then your business intelligence kicks in.
Actually, that brings a very critical point, and Rahul, I'll have you take this up. So the entire marketing ecosystem or the organization structure has probably now evolved with a very different skill sets, which is now driving it. While your decision makers are using data more than the gut feels, looking at probably unseen patterns, which through various statistical methods and correlation are coming out, you still need an intelligent mathematician to work on it, decode it for the marketing team, and probably decode it for the larger organization as well, because that can be an input, as Marinosh mentioned, could be an input for a product team, it could be an input for my research team, it could be an input for my distribution and retail as well. How are you seeing the organization structure evolve and manage this dynamic?
So the good thing is that, the organization has understood that somebody who is managing a business digitally has to understand digital marketing himself or herself and also understand data that is being generated by the customers who are doing it the digital way. Because unless and until you can marry these three skill sets together, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to be really good at it, good at your business. If you can't understand data yourself and if you can't mine it yourself, it's going to be a very difficult task for you to really succeed at what you are intending to do. Broking, as we all know, SEBI came out with a study telling you that 90% of people, of course, do not make money in options, right? But that doesn't stop people from still trading in options. There is every single broker who is now mandated to show up a warning on every single login to every single customer that 90% of people who trade would lose money. But that obviously is still not a deterrent to a lot of people. I have people in my organization who are 23, 24, 25 years old who would tell me that they need to buy a cigarette packet worth 200 rupees today. And for exactly that, they would want to trade in options to just earn that much amount of money so that they can, just fund that packet of cigarettes. It's insane. Another example, there is another guy who is traveling from, let's say, Malad to Andheri, doesn't want to take the metro now, obviously didn't want to take the local train as well, doesn't even want to take the metro, wants to take an auto rickshaw or a cab and exactly the amount of money that he's spending in that cab or an auto rickshaw is what he wants to get back from trading in options. It's absolutely insane and amazing kind of conversations that you can get to hear from these people who are literally 25-year-olds. I was speaking to somebody who's dealing with selling liquor at airport. There are people who would go out of India to various destinations outside and would perhaps buy liquor wherever they have traveled to. Now, how do you lock these people in when they are leaving any of the airports in India so that when they are coming back to India, they are picking up liquor here? Right? Think of it this way. Somebody who is leaving this country for some time, and if he or she is leaving along with the family, the electricity consumption would come down for that family for that period of time. Can we get to know whether the electricity consumption has come down for a week for a particular household? And if we get to know that, then we essentially know that somebody is actually traveling at this point of time. Can we then do a targeted communication for that person saying that, when you come back, here is a 10% discount or a 15% discount coupon for you, waiting for you when you come back to this country. So there is insane amount of, again, data gathering and correlation and causation, both of which can happen if you really think of it the right way. But again, you really need the right kind of analysis to be done. A lot of data obviously is available, right across us. But do we really have the wherewithal to understand it, mine it, and then use it very, very, what should I say? Very, very, in a manner in which we can really generate business out of it. I think that's where the key lies.
I think so. There are multiple use cases which will emerge, and that will really emerge from what the data is throwing out at the end of the day, and a marketing campaign around that communication, very specific communication. Vishesh, we discussed a lot on content creation and optimization. How do you see, data? How has data helped you design the content for your communication, and how do you think potential AI use cases for taking that further?
See, before I answer this question, you made a statement that have someone decode the data for the marketing team. The marketing team does not have the option now for having someone else decode it for them. The kind of marketing team you have to build now, the team in itself should have the capability to decode the data. Because any campaign which you run nowadays, if it's not driven by the insights, if it's not driven by the real meat which you pump in, it's of no use. Say for example, I'll give you a very interesting case. So when we were at Angel One, okay, since ages, the entire broking industry has been calling the Diwali window. On Diwali, I'm sure all of you are aware, on Diwali, you have the market open for 1 hour, which you used to call Muhurat trading. Okay. Now, when, we were at Angel and we were planning a Diwali Muhurat trading campaign. So, at that time, this I'm talking about 2018, 19. So, we used to get the data that now 85% of your people who are opening account are first-timer millennials, Gen Z, from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. These guys don't even know that what is Muhurat trading. And probably these guys are not even entering the stock market for trading. See, for ages, we have been putting it as FD versus equity returns. But nobody invests in an FD from a trading mindset, okay? So this kind of certain viewpoints, certain data sets which we utilized to create a campaign, and we ran a small exercise wherein we asked some of our customers that what are the most relevant words for you for Diwali? The prominent word which came out was Shagun. We got some insights, some inputs that On Diwali, you do up Shagun ke puja, Shagun ke patake, Shagun ke gifts, mitai, everything to do with Shagun. So we said, if this is what people think, that Diwali is most related with the word Shagun, so why don't you buy Shagun ke shares this Diwali? Okay? And that's when we decided that henceforth at Angel, we will never call it Mohra trading, we will call it Shagun ke shares. And I'm happy to share that from that day onwards. In fact, last couple of years, I've seen, leading brokers like Zerodha, Agro, all of them have stopped using the word Mohra trading because they realize it's not at all relevant with today's kind of Gen Z millennial audience which we have. Another beautiful use case, so in India, across the globe practically, you have YouTube as a platform which is, YouTube is no more a social platform. You realize that YouTube has become world's second most search engine. And in India also, maximum content is being consumed via YouTube. That's a data which says that about 80, 85, 90% content is being consumed in a video format. And video format means YouTube. So at Bajaj, when we looked at this data, we realized, okay, why don't we build a YouTube first brand? Now, what does it mean? It means whatever kind of audience, so you have a fence sitter who is not sure whether he wants to enter stock market. You have an active trader who's looking at, different charts, trading strategies. You have a woman investor. You have a super, investor. So this kind of audience, why don't we create properties which are directed at them, targeted at them from YouTube viewpoint? And that's the kind of marketing strategy we have started deploying. So far it's giving us good results, not just for us, for across, the industry, which is why the whole concept of finfluencers, came into existence. That, because all these people who are influencing your financial decisions are available on YouTube. That's where people learn from. That's why they're not looking at going to different platforms which you create as a brand. Rather, they're going to YouTube and subscribing to these channels. So what do you do as a brand, as a marketer? You take those inputs, build those strategies. What happens is, whenever you're planning these strategies, you take AI as a use case to somehow make sure that you reach out. If someone who is interested in looking at how to read a candlestick pattern, I can't show him, how to evaluate a mutual fund, that kind of video. So those, personalization, those kind of effective content distribution and discovery, you need, to leverage AI. And that's where we are building those use cases. Though it's too early, but somewhere, that's the way forward. Thank you.
Makes sense. Kanika, on personalized marketing and, the impact it has had on consumer engagement, how are you driving that at your organization?
So I think, one of the things is that today, as he rightly said, that if I am getting too much SMS from a bank, I would firstly take care of that I'm not using that bank, right? So that's a perfect example. If used, if you're too much creepy or you're bombarding just a blank messages to the customer. So personalization is also that I would know at least, like if I talk about mutual fund in my past experience. So what we used to do is that at the time of calling, the outbound calling, we would know that, okay, this is the customer I need to target, but I need to call him at this particular time, and I need to pitch him SIP, or I need to pitch him lump sum. Do I need to pitch, 2 lakh or 20 lakh or 20,000 as an amount, which is the fund? So my call would be very, very specific and targeted, and we had very high conversion rates in such kind of outbound calling, which is otherwise, if I talk about cold calling, usually 0.5% is the conversion rate. But I'll not talk about the conversion rates in my actual experience, but those were in double digits. So that's a kind of personalized targeting when you say, and not just the calling. we would also ensure that whether we should be calling this person, or usually this person is more responded on, more active on the notifications, and within notifications also, whether mobile or desktop, whether the person is more active on SMS or email. So I would be very, very specific in targeting. And it really works because our NPS, as we were driving this marketing campaigns, our NPS was also growing. So my customers and some of the customers I actually used to call personally and speak to them and try to understand. And I realized that they are very, very happy the way our messages are going to them, and they feel that, okay, whenever it comes, we definitely make it a point to look at it and act on it. And that's a very positive feedback that you can ever get when you are running some kind of campaigns. So, yeah, I think that's the only point
Yeah.
I can drive.
Actually, that's a very good insight, and Marinosh, I'll come to you on the next point, which is linked to this. So driving customer satisfaction, looking at consumer engagement, driving ROI. What use cases do you see currently on which AI could be explored for driving ROI and making a more efficient, more accurate attribution to the right medium?
Okay, so first and foremost, I just want to tell the audience that I'm not one of those guys sitting in this panel who's saying that AI is not the best thing possible. My first comments might have indicated that. But here's the question, Amay. So everyone is using AI, right? Every company, every small company, everyone is using AI. You ask ChatGPT a particular question, everyone will get the same answer. The mic is disagreeing with me, I think. So where does the differentiation come in?
Yeah.
Okay, if you ask ChatGPT a question and if you get the same answer, where does the differentiation come in? Okay, so I am a great proponent of AI. I feel that AI brings in a lot of productivity. The amount of manpower that you have been using earlier is significantly reduced, but at the same time, I'm a traditionalist. Okay, I still believe in design thinking. I don't think that AI is going to help you to design a particular product. Design research, going and understanding consumer ethnography is something that is going to help you. If you think that AI is going to help you design a particular product and make it completely differentiated, I think you're wrong. That holds true for marketing campaigns, that holds true for engagement as well. Till you have your hands and feet on the street and understand the consumer journey, you are going to be doing the same stuff that your competitor is doing. And that is something that I very truly believe in. And therefore, we use AI to a large extent, specifically for tasks which are mundane, specifically for tasks which used to be done by data analysts and stuff like that, and for people in the creative agency, used to analyze data, programmatic, and a lot of AI right now with respect to predictive AI, as well as generative AI has helped. Okay, we use copywriting with respect to generative AI as well, to a very large extent, because there are several creatives that you need to roll out. But I wouldn't let a generative AI created copy just to get onto the market digitally or offline without my marketing person actually seeing it, whether it is relevant for the consumer or not. So from that point of view, I think the principles that Mr. Kotler mentioned way back still holds very, very true. Okay, whether it is product in terms of design thinking, or whether it is ethnography, or whether it is consumer research, or whether it is concept testing, and whether it is intuition. Right. To a very large extent, when you're a marketeer, your intuition is very, very strong. Yeah. And AI is not going to be intuitive. True. Okay, it is just going to gather data and give you that. Yeah. And therefore, differentiation is the key, and that is something that I would like the audience as well as the panel members to ponder upon, that how do you really differentiate when AI to a large extent gives the same answers to everyone. Okay. Also, one more point, sorry, I'll just take 30 seconds more. With respect to the data that you feed in, with respect to who your consumer is, okay, with respect to what his preferences are, okay, all of those will come from consumer understanding, not necessarily AI, okay, because AI to a very large extent will give you, I mean, I had a liver test and, the results were not very good. And, immediately after that, I was bombarded with number of messages saying that, these are the liver medicines. And, they came from absolutely unknown companies. And I was really spooked. And I thought that, okay, I mean, probably they're going to guess what is the amount of poop also that I've done in the morning. So that's the kind of spookiness that AI brings to the table. But, we are in an AI world. We can't really get away with it. We'll need to live with it.
I just want to add to what he said. So I agree with him. I think the answer to it is a combination. So you can't leave everything on machines and AI, but at the same time, there's many a times you get the insights which a usual human eye may not get. So that correlation is something which you can see from the AI. As he was giving the example, we were having, I think, offline conversation, that sometimes AI gives the results which you may not be able to comprehend and see really that why it is giving such a correlation. Now that correlation, does it really have a meaning or not a meaning? You give an example of, I forgot the example actually. Yeah, no, before that I think. But anyways, I'll skip that. The idea is that sometimes that correlation, for example, if I am very active in, let's say, investments, I like pizza. I mean, that's a very rubbish kind of correlation if you look at it this way. But if I look at it in a bit more detailed eye, I may realize that no, there is a correlation. Probably the people who like more of the pizza kind of cuisine are more risk takers, and that's why they are, and I'm just making up an example, but the idea is that you need to have a balance in where the human intervention comes in and where you actually make the best use of the AI.
Absolutely. I think we're out of time, so I will, Anand, I'll start with you with the closing comments. I think one thing which is, I think it's quite some time before we take the human out of any activity. And all these are form of enablers, and as the panelists rightly put, to churn more data, to provide more insights, where you can probably build more hypothesis and test, which, as you rightly put, probably, I would have restricted to 4 or 5, but with the advent of digital marketing, omni-channel marketing, there are multiple avenues where I can test various hypotheses and see what's really working for my brand, working for my particular product, working for my particular cohort or segment. I think, to be able to churn that quickly, test, take the insights and, build that learning back into your next campaign is where I see machine learning and AI playing a very, very critical role. And at the end of the day, you definitely need experience to see in which direction it will go or not. Otherwise, there'll be tons of marketing spends being burnt on useless hypotheses as well. So curation of that also becomes very critical with the team who's really driving it. Anand, I'll start with you. Talk about use cases of ROI, which probably AI can generate, and your final comments.
Sure. So in terms of use cases, one phenomenal one for us was actually in the form of content development. So we've started using a fair amount of content machine generated. It allows us to deliver a lot of very, very different content in a very short time period. And then you quickly start seeing, what is working, what's not. So in fact, the ROI on some of these campaigns is incredible. And because there is a lot of behavioral intelligence going into the prompt, it clicks. And, to a slightly older demographic, at times it feels like, you've got to be nuts, man. The guy is clicking on this and buying. It doesn't make sense. But fine, that's the consumer. It works for him, right? It's addressing, or her, and it's addressing a need. So that's where we've seen ROI shoot up, as well as in the use of a lot of mathematical models to figure out whom not to contact. So our bank definitely doesn't call you. So, if we've ever called you, we've wasted our money on you. And we've really quickly figured that even, across renewals, whatever, don't call. And, the conversion will happen. So just focus on a very small segment that has really stretched the rupees significantly for us.
Great. Kanika, quick minute closing comments from your end in terms of future use of AI and data sets.
See, as I just said that I think it's all about making the balanced use of both human and machines. And the only thing is that, don't get bored with the AI saying that, too creepy in saying that we are judging you the best and then bombarding the customer with the liver test and then guessing everything about that person through the machines. And but at the same time, for scaling up, for hitting the customer right at the time when the iron is hot, so that real-time targeting, real-time, making the best use of the customer's intent and customer's wish is where AI definitely needs to come in, pitch in, and generative AI is the next level where I can make more use of the unstructured data across the organization. There's a lot of unstructured data which we today don't use, and we can definitely leverage that when we try to segment the customers and also try to create the different kind of pitch content for the customers. Yeah, I think that's where we need to generate the balance in the future.
Thanks. Thank you, Kanika. Anosh, with you, quick summary on privacy and security concerns, with the advent of more data, more analytics, and hence, a larger concern of the consumer today that what's happening with my data.
So I've got a big problem now. There are so many people who know that my liver is not okay. But I just want to say that it's better. I didn't go the AI way. I went to my doctor. My doctor stood in the line, and I ensured that I took the right medication. So I didn't go for any of those online ones. So yeah, in terms of privacy, I think it is very important, okay, to respect the consumer privacy. As we go ahead, there are laws which are going to get stricter. I think it is going to happen because the way the advent of AI is here and it is going to stay. Very soon there are going to be laws coming in. We already have the cookieless world, which people are talking about. My final comments on AI. AI definitely is the next big thing. It is the big thing and it is going to continue being the next big thing. There are going to be new things coming up as well. But ensure that you have humans which make sure that you're differentiated, whether it is your product or your campaign or any of your processes or any of your supply chain activities. Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj. Rahul, quick closing comments on organization structure and how do you see that moving forward?
So I think, without a doubt, AI does help us, but it should not stop us from thinking. Because the thoughts make up beliefs for us. So are our beliefs, so is our behavior, and so is our business. जैसे आपका विचार, वैसा आपका व्यवहार, और वैसा ही आपका व्यापार. Right? So I think all of our thoughts and all of our thinking should not stop only because we believe that there is an AI to help us. And if the thinking really stops, then the growth stops for us. I think, which is why I would say that a lot of people around here have also mentioned that a balance is important, and hence I would say that balance is something that we should try to keep, and hence the thought should keep flowing as well.
Thank you, Rahul. Vishesh, on high intent customer identification and going after very specific segments so that they don't get troubled with plethora of SMSs, emails, phone calls, recorded lines, etc. How do you see, closing comments on that?
See, you have asked this question to a wrong person. Okay, someone recently asked our promoter, Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, that how do you stop these calls which we get from Bajaj for loans? And he made a very interesting statement that, on our website, very soon there'll be a feature. By the way, that feature is live on our platform. So you can go to our platform, click a button, and we will forget you. But like he said, then don't come back to us for loans again. So, see, point being, this too much, communication, which, brand tend to do at times because it's a digital world, 24/7 connectivity, The data set keep coming to you every now and then. So you have to, as brands, we also have to take a conscious call now where to stop and how. Because the pressure of everyone says digital world is more connected world, more approachable world, but the flip side is it's a world which bothers you too much as well. Okay, so but as marketeer, I would like to leave you all with 3 Rs. So RRR, basically the movie did well. So I have my own RRRs. So first R is be reflective of your actions. As marketeers, we are not just connecting with a customer, we are also influencing our customer's choice. So we have to be reflective of the kind of communication we are sending out and how we are sending out. Whether, in our eagerness to be more connected, are we bothering them too much? So that reflection as marketeers, we should do. The second R is being more responsive to your customer's pain point. You also need to make sure that while in order to solve one of her pain point, you are creating a new pain point by bothering them unnecessarily. So, you need to be more responsive. And while you take care of all those things, stay relevant. We may abuse AI, we may say good or bad things about AI, but the fact remains that AI is here to stay. So, we need to, and yes, AI will never replace humans because AI is dependent on us. And, whatever you feed in the AI, it acts as per your instructions. So, as marketeers, we need to be responsive, relevant to these new trends and make sure we adopt them so that things become easy for us as well as for the customer to whom we are trying to communicate with. So thank you so much.
Before the mic revolves, just one point. So there was a joke which said that, every day, my wife might forget to call me, but this bank calls me every day.
True. So great case studies, great use cases. I think that was a very informational panel, honestly, and we at EY as well, we're constantly being asked that, what's next on AI and then what next on Gen AI. The prompt still remains with us, right? So the better the prompt, the better the output. On that note, I would like to thank all of you. Thank you for your time and thank you for your valuable insights. It was really a great panel and great session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience.